Hello, everyone. Welcome to what is going to be, I think, a series of YouTube videos, kind of long form, sometimes interviews, sometimes not. This is my first one, so I'm going to be adjusting, talking to no one here but you guys on the internet. If you found this video, chances are you know me. So, of course, I'm Damon, and my travel website is bigguyonaplantravel.com. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Big Guy on a Plane. And of course, I am an owner operator of a Dream Vacations franchise. So, today we are going to be going ahead and talking about safaris in Kenya and why I think it's a great first destination, a first place to go in Africa for those of you looking to book that classic African safari. Okay, now listen, I know you have a lot of options in booking and choosing, I think, the right agent. And there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, we're an Africa specialist, and oh, we have all these partners. But you know why me? Well, let's be honest. I've got a 10-year working relationship in Kenya, both through my nonprofit organization, the Kenya Music Education Project, where I have gone and taught school in the Northwest Highlands of Kenya, and also as a travel professional. So when you work with me, you're going to be working with someone who's looking out for your interests, that knows Kenya, that knows the people. My Kenya provider over at Africa 220, you're going to know Miss Callan, and you're going to know Mr. Gideon, and you're going to know that Miss Callan has been working in this industry for 30 years, and she has a fleet of 20 cars managed by Mr. Gideon. And so whether it's Gideon or Martin or someone that picks you up at Nairobi and gets you to that first hotel, you're going to know that I know exactly who you're going to be working with. It's not going to be some random person or whatever. And that comes from my experience working in Kenya. And I think that's something very unique that I can bring to the table that is going to help you make good decisions on your upcoming travel to East Africa, specifically Kenya. I think another final big advantage here is that, honestly, folks, I'm a no fee agent. So if you're not happy with the service that I provide and you don't book with me, I don't get paid, right? You don't pay me. The various companies in-house and in Africa, right? That's how I get paid. So there is no fee working with me. And so that means that I have to give you my absolute best every single time in order to earn that trust. And my clients that have been to Africa in the last several years, and as well as this summer, and myself doing a little bit of work in July in Kenya, they all agree that, yeah, booking through Damon, it's not some random person. It's not some random company picking you up. It's going to be someone that he knows, that he trusts, and he has a personal relationship with. So I think those are some huge advantages booking with me. I'm going to say that the very first thing you're going to need to do is look at some air travel options. I'm not going to lie, it's a long, long ways to get there, but given you can get there in a fairly decent amount of time is quite miraculous if you think about the distance you're going to go. On my most recent trip, door to door from my house here in the New York City area to my hotel room and the shower at the Norfolk Fairmont on Harry Thuku Street in downtown Nairobi, I think it was about 22 and a half hours door to door. Now, my route that I chose this time was traveling Qatar Air from JFK to Doha, and then Doha down to Nairobi. It was a great route. I cannot say enough great things about Qatar Air. I will include on this video some pictures at the end of this little segment, what that looked like from the food to the seating to the flight experience. But it was tremendous. The Hamad International Airport in Doha, super easy to navigate. Everyone is super friendly. I cannot say enough good things about Qatar Air. If you're looking for a non-stop option from the New York area, Kenyan Airways offers a direct flight every day from New York to Nairobi that clocks in at about 14 hours. So that is very, very possible to be doing that. And that's, that air travel, that's a big consideration whether you're connecting through Europe, the Middle East, or looking for a direct flight. And those are all options that we can look at. The second thing I wanted to address quickly is you do need a travel visa to visit Kenya. And unlike other East African countries, the procedure and process is so simple. It's a quick website. It's a $35 fee. It's the least expensive travel visa for East Africa, and it's the easiest to deal with, to obtain, to procure, etc. Basically, they look for your passport number, your date of birth, and how long you're going to be in country. You pay the $35, and within an hour, your visa is processed. I want to compare that to some clients that this summer did a big trip through Zimbabwe, Botswana, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. No, I process their visas for them, and that is an option. When you book through me, I can do the visas for you. Then there is a fee associated with that. But, for instance, Kenya, or rather not Kenya, but Tanzania and Zimbabwe, both of those visas were tremendously expensive. Tanzania was $100 for them to be there for 2 days. Zimbabwe, I think, was $75 for them to be there for 2 days. But the process of procuring the visa, it took 2 hours per form to fill out. And then in both of those cases, the government misplaced in their handling the visas. So I was on the phone as a service for my clients, but I was on the phone calling Zimbabwe and Tanzania in the middle of the night here in New York, trying to get these visas sorted almost down to the last minute. Whereas, you book, like I said, through Kenya, website, $35, easy breezy lemon squeezy. So I can't say how easy that is. Also, travel, like we went over with the flights, very easy to get there, very convenient. Once you get to Nairobi, you can hop on Uber. We can arrange for transport directly to your hotel in a nice Land Cruiser, whatever you're thinking about doing. But, first step is kind of figuring out how you want to get there and making that decision. The visa process is very easy. And then from there, it's on to, I think, what would be just a once of a lifetime trip. Okay, so now let's talk about what I consider a great itinerary. You're going to fly to Nairobi. And I think the best bet is to plan on 2 nights in Nairobi. We can extend it to a third if you want. But that first day, after 20 hours of travel, you're going to want to get some rest. Many accommodations that we can look at, but as far as I'm concerned, I think your best bet is probably going to be the Fairmont Norfolk Hotel on Harituku Road. It's very centrally located. It's 15-20 minutes from the airport via the new expressway. We can look at also the fact that it's 20 or so minutes away from the national park. It's 5 minutes from the National Museum of Kenya. It's in a great part of town with lots of great restaurants, coffee shops, etc., let alone what they have inside the resort, including that heated pool, which is really, really nice. So I can't recommend that enough. And on your one kind of travel day, you're going to get there. It's comfortable when you arrive. It's perfect. Your first full day in Nairobi, the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, sometimes we call it the Animal Orphanage, on one of the gates in the national park there in Nairobi. It's wonderful. At the time I was there, they had 15 baby elephants, 2 baby rhinos, and a baby zebra. And they were all just wonderful. And you're just, inches away on these encounters. And it's a $20 ticket in the door. And it's well worth the price of admission. A lot of that money goes into just feeding the animals, right? Each of those elephants requires 24 liters per day of baby formula just to keep alive. So the $20, I think, is a very fair price. Probably, I think they should be charging a little bit more for the care of the animals, but that's my opinion. But they're making it super accessible for everyone. So that Sheldrick Wildlife foundation and seeing the orphaned animals. It's really a beautiful thing, and learning about how they are integrated back into the wild after some time, and that whole process and their success rate. It's a beautiful foundation. Also, like I said, I can't say enough about the National Museum of Kenya. If you're a nerd like me about paleoanthropology, Kenya, honestly, through the rift in Oldovan area, is the cradle of humanity, right? Homo erectus, Homo sapien, they're both coming out of Kenya. And we can see replicas in the museums here in the United States, but when you go to the National Museum of Kenya, you can see the real Turkana boy. You can see the first and oldest stone-made tools by human beings, 2.3 million years old. Various dinosaurs, skeletons as well, but really that Hall of Human Origins is such a tremendous exhibit to visit. And again, you know, they have a raptor center and a snake park within the National Museum as well. That's an option. I myself have gone to just the Hall of Human Origins and seen some of the artworks and other cultural items featuring the history of Kenya. But that National Museum is just tremendous. So maybe, you know, your first full day in Kenya in the morning over to the Sheldrick Wildlife. That starts at 11. It's about an hour and a half. And after that, a little bit of lunch, spend some time at the museum, go to bed. And then we're going to talk as well about what I think a great itinerary is going to be. Okay, so speaking of that itinerary, and I hope you enjoyed the photos of the Fairmont and the elephant orphanage and of course the National Museum there that I included, and some coffee pictures too, because my one passion besides travel, of course, is going to be that coffee, especially Kenyan coffee. It is so, so good. But I digress. Realistically speaking, you've gone that far. You want to plan to be on your safari, and we have lots of options I can plan for you, from tent camping all the way up to within like the Masai Mara, the Fairmont Mara Safari Club, the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons. So there's something for everyone's budget as you're looking, traveling there. But I really feel a great itinerary for Kenya is going to be something like leaving Nairobi, going to Masai Mara, having at least 2 days in the park after your travel day, right? So you drive, you get there. It's a long drive, I'm not going to lie. It's a 6.5, 7 hour drive. So you're going to spend the bulk of the day with, you know, Gideon or someone else from Africa 220, which is going to be great, in a super deluxe modern Land Cruiser, very comfortable. You'll have some pit stops along the way, lunch stops, etc. So that's going to be fine. You'll get to Masai Mara and get into whatever resort we choose to put you in, whether you're inside the park in a luxury experience, a tent camping, someone on the gates, outside of the gates of the park, etc. We're going to find a great place for you. And then you'll spend 2 days in the Mara. I really think the next stop on your trip ought to be Naivasha on the lake. For those of you that love birds, right? And Naivasha, they're going to have over 400 species of bird just on that lake. Also, if you're a fan of movies, in the 1980s, Meryl Streep filmed that movie, of course, out of Africa at Naivasha. And so, you know, one of the highlights of Naivasha is doing a small boat cruise for an hour, hour and a half around the lake. It is so wonderful, so many beautiful birds, so much beautiful scenery that you're going to see. From Naivasha, you can also spend a day a little bit north up in Nakuru at the Lake Nakuru National Park. Again, rhinos in there. Actually, all the big five minus the elephants are in Nakuru, but rhinos, lions, water buffalo, gazelle, right, leopard. In fact, this past trip, we saw the leopard at Nakuru National Park, whereas before I'd seen one down in the Masai Mara. Leopards are few and far between. They don't like to be around people. So just be aware of that. And your guides will go out of their way to ensure you see everything. But of course, nature's going to be nature. But you want to spend a couple days. And again, at Naivasha, I really love the Naivasha Country Club Hotel. And again, you know, as a school teacher, that's in my budget, right? There's other places, like I said, your Ritz-Carlton level luxury. There's other places tent camping. But, you know, as far as something like that goes, the just kind of an average person, which is me, um, it's a great place for your budget. Beautiful on the lake. At nighttime, the hippos come up onto the grass. In the daytime, the family of zebras. There's a herd of zebras. There's also a giraffe family. There's 15 giraffe that live on the property. And, you know, one of the nights, the baby giraffe was just kind of hanging out behind my room, eating some foliage and having a little nap here and there. So we went over and said hello to the baby giraffe. But Naivasha, it's a nice way to kind of break up the trip, because after Naivasha, it's going to be a big drive to either Amboseli or Savo West or Savo East. Down south, you'll drive past Nairobi down south and into Amboseli. Now, I chose Amboseli this time because I've never been to Amboseli. Amboseli, you get the best views of Kilimanjaro, and we'll make sure there's some photos in that description as well. You can't beat it. Now, I stayed at the Kalima Safari Club just outside the gate. While I was there, I got to tour a 5-star resort inside the park, Old Tukai. 5-star, but not at the price point of your Ritz-Carlton or, you know, Four Seasons in the Mara that's whatever, $3,500 a night per person. Old Tukai comes in around $400 a night per person, but of course this is like a cruise. It's all of your meals, all of your game drives are included in that. Your park tickets as well into the park, plus your guide. So everything is taken care of at that price point. But, you know, 2 full days in Amboseli is really something special. Some of the largest elephant herds in East Africa are there at Amboseli, and you are going to get those iconic shots. Everyone loves watching the elephants crossing the road. I always wondered if the elephants enjoyed watching the cars line up on the side of the road and they just walk past to get a better view. But you're going to see that beautiful lake within the park. You're going to see all the big five in there, minus the rhinos. But, you know, you can see those in the Masai Mara. You'll see those in Nakuru, Naivasha. We can add Old Pajeta onto there as well, because there's a large rhino sanctuary in Old Pajeta on the way from Naivasha down that's absolutely worth seeing, and you can do like a walking trip through there as well. Absolutely beautiful. But yeah, the elephants, whoa, they are the star, and there are hundreds of elephants within Amboseli National Park. And there you feel like you're in the Rift, right? It's going to be a more arid climate. Now, arid just means, I think, a bit more dry than you're going to see in the Mara. Not hot, right? It never got above 78 degrees in July. And like me, I don't like heat. I don't like humidity. So I was perfectly fine. If you know me, right, I love my ice and I love my air conditioning. And they had plenty of ice, but honestly, at nighttime, the temperatures dropped into the 50s and you just had fresh air. You didn't need the air conditioning. And I'll put a link in here too, or not a link, but rather a picture. You can sit there and watch the Milky Way over Kilimanjaro every single night inside Amboseli or outside like I did at Kalima. But those elephants, boy, they're just magnificent. Hundreds of giraffes, hundreds of elephants, beautiful bird species. Both, you're going to see, of course, 2 different types of monkeys and bonobos within the park, and they're just absolute jokers, and they're just fun. Little Pumbas, the little warthogs. So Amboseli, it's a great option. So, you know, from there, a couple days in Amboseli, back to Nairobi. If you want to have a little beach time, we can always extend down to, say, Mombasa or something like that from Nairobi. But as far as kind of that classic safari, you know, 2 days kind of in every park, plus the travel days, getting around Kenya, and then your flights in and out of home, you know, that does turn out to be, you know, 12 or 13 days. And that is such a, I think, just the right amount of time for your trip. Okay, so I hope that you've got some good ideas and places to start on your trip. If you could do me a huge favor, If there's something that you want to know about East Africa travel, something I haven't touched on, maybe another national park, something like that, or other activities to do in country, please let me know. You can leave a comment in the comments section. Also, I hate to be that guy, but if you could please like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. I'm a small business. You're helping a small business grow. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am excited to see where this travel channel goes. Episode 2 is going to be focused on Antarctica, a place I was lucky enough to visit back in January. And so we'll go over some different options on what it looks like to get to that last wild frontier. And thank you so much. And again, like I said, you can find me on the web, bigguyonAplane.travel.com. Instagram at bigguyonAplane, TikTok at bigguyonAplane. My email is d.postal@dreamvacations.com. Please reach out. I would be honored to speak with you. Thank you so much.